My name is Kevin Don, and I couldn't be more excited to be the new host of Get Fit Guy. I'd love to take this opportunity to introduce myself and to define what being fit means, so that we can all look forward to what to expect from my time sharing fitness tips with you. As you can probably hear from my accent, I am indeed from Scotland. Although I went to elementary and middle school in Kenya and spent most of my adult life in Hong Kong, with some stays in Abu Dhabi, Arizona, Iceland, and Oman. My own training background was firstly in the martial arts. Started with wrestling when I was 5 years old and moved to karate at age 12. I trained and competed in a very hard style of karate called Kyokushinkai, which is full contact, and I was the Hong Kong full contact karate champion in 2012 and represented Hong Kong internationally at the Asian Championships. Because this style of karate has no weight divisions, it was an advantage to me to be as strong as possible. So I was heavily involved in strength, speed, and power development. To this end, I ran the strength and conditioning facilities in a world-class mixed martial arts gym, with many world champions in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, and Muay Thai, as well as some current and past movie stars, Olympians, and UFC fighters training there. In late 2012, I began to leave Hong Kong for 3 months at a time for training camps in America, where I learned from and trained alongside the greatest coaches and athletes in the world. From these champions, I learned a lot about training, but they also helped me to formulate my own ideas about fitness for what we call the general population versus fitness for athletes. From 2014 to 2020, I traveled to 18 countries in 16 US states delivering seminars on strength training and fitness program design to 253 gyms and thousands of coaches and athletes. I also created a coaches certification course on strength for the world's leading fitness education provider. All of this is to say that this experience has given me a broad base of knowledge, and I hope that I'll be able to pass on useful and actionable information to you for many episodes to come. Really looking forward to getting to read your emails and learn from you what you want to know from me and being in contact with all of you listeners. To set the scene for what I think about fitness, I thought a good place to start would be a quote from a coach I admire called Gray Cook. He says, "If movement is dysfunctional, then all things built upon that dysfunction may be flawed, compromised, or predisposed to risk, even if it is disguised as acceptable levels of performance." In other words, we need to learn how to move our bodies to minimize risk. Another good way to say this is, motion is lotion. Athletes are not always the gold standard that we should look up to, because athletes move in a performance setting and may, in fact, not move very well. Most of us are not highly paid, high-performing athletes, though if you are, please write in. Now, whilst it's possible to take our little family car to the racetrack, it won't be long before bits start to fall off. That's not to say that we shouldn't be inspired by the feats of extraordinary human beings, but when it comes down to our own markers of fitness, we should look to health and not performance, and we should care more about durability and longevity, less about intensity. So what is fitness? According to the Macmillan Dictionary, it is the state of being physically healthy and strong. Pretty concise. Nothing in there about having a bikini body or the biceps of one of the Avengers. The state of being physically healthy and strong. Physical health, of course, being the absence of illness or injury. So this is exactly what I'll be centering this podcast around. Giving compelling reasons why health and not performance is fitness, and how best we can go about respecting our individual journeys towards that goal. Respecting our individual journeys is another key point for me, because fitness and health is very subjective. That is, where we are on a spectrum of fitness to wellness is completely unique. We should all have totally unique prescriptions to help us to move along the spectrum. So my goal will also be to arm listeners with information which can be used to help them to make informed training and fitness choices rather than making black and white recommendations. Because equality is a very powerful word in modern society. But in some situations, equality isn't what we need. In a fitness scenario, equality would look something like giving everyone the same training program to do, this being in spite of biological age, training age, gender, or training intent. The needs of either the many or the few may or may not be met because we have no data. Equity is what we should be pushing for, and this is where every person gets what they need to help them on their own unique journey. The best way for me to help this will be to explain fitness and wellness protocols from a totally objective viewpoint and create compelling reasons for why fitness is more about being disease and injury-free than it is about looking like a cover model. For this week and our first learning, I think coming back to the idea that movement is function and lack of good movement is dysfunction would be a great place to start. So, what is good movement? Well, broadly accepted that there are several different movement patterns, as well as what we call degrees of freedom within which we can express them. The movement patterns are core, squat, lunge, pull, push, and hinge or bend. And core itself conjures up images of abdominal muscles. But the core really is the whole torso, from your shoulders to your hip. We should be strong flexing, extending, and rotating our torso, as well as strong resisting against being flexed, extended, or rotated, and holding a strong static hold, which is what we call an isometric contraction. Squatting is very natural and primal, sitting down, going to the bathroom, and so on. But squatting is actually very complex because it involves many muscles and joints. The lunge is another low body movement, but unlike the squat, which is a bilateral movement, this one challenges your balance and has more instability because it has a split stance. Pulling. This is exactly what it sounds like. You're either pulling yourself towards an object or pulling an object towards you. Pushing is the opposing movement. You're either pushing yourself away from an object or pushing an object away from you. And the hinge or bend is where you bend over at the hip so you can pick something up off the floor or lowering an object to the ground. You can measure each of these movement patterns along 6 degrees of freedom. Those are surge, which is moving forwards and backwards, sway, which is moving left to right, lift, which is moving up and down. And then we have rotations around those, which are called pitch, roll, and yaw. Now, in terms of fitness and movement, it would be healthy and admirable to have some degree of mastery or control over these in order to fully immerse ourselves in our environment and therefore our human experience. If we can't squat down and stand up, using the bathroom or getting up from our favorite armchair may become a challenge. If we can't lunge and be stable with one foot out in front of the other, walking could become a dangerous prospect in terms of stumbling and not being able to recover the situation. Likewise, if we want to be able to move around our houses, our workplaces, and just be out enjoying life with our families, friends, or pets, immersing ourselves in all the different degrees of freedom, then we're going to be like an automated vacuum cleaner bumping around the place without that ability to move left, right, or turn around. There are many ways we can assess our abilities in these different movement patterns and degrees of freedom. And those assessments will help us to devise a plan of attack to fill in any movement gaps. So keep following the podcast because very soon we'll be talking about assessing your individual capacity and how to go about improving your degrees of freedom. Get Fit Guy is a quick and dirty tips podcast. Thanks to the team at Quick and Dirty Tips, Adam Cecil, Morgan Christensen, Holly Hutchings, and Davina Tomlin. I'm your host, Kevin Don. If you have a question for me, leave a voicemail at 510-353-3104 or send me an email at getfitguy@quickanddirtytips.com. For more information about the show, visit quickanddirtytips.com or check out the show notes in your podcast app.